Have you ever wondered where the concept of vampires originated? Well, let's take a journey back in time to the heart of Eastern Europe, specifically Bulgaria, where the vampire stories were birthed 1,000 years ago. The Slavic peoples of this region were the first to narrate tales of these mysterious beings, often linking them with death, disease, and the undead. In these early narratives, vampires were depicted as non-corporeal entities, invulnerable to conventional means of destruction. They were the spirits of wicked individuals who met violent ends, only to return from the grave with a sinister agenda to prey on the living. These stories painted a chilling picture of the vampire, a far cry from the seductive figures we're familiar with today. Yet, they laid the groundwork for what was to come, introducing a supernatural creature that would transcend borders and centuries, continually evolving while retaining its ties to death and the supernatural. These early vampire stories from Bulgaria set the stage for the evolution of the vampire legend. As centuries passed, vampire stories began to spread, and the vampire's image began to change. These tales, originally rooted in Eastern Europe, started to traverse borders during the 17th and 18th centuries. This was a time of great disease, and as dread pervaded society, people began to associate these horrifying illnesses with the ominous figure of the vampire. The vampire, previously seen as an ethereal and immortal entity, started to take on a more corporeal form. This transformation was accompanied by an insidious new trait, an insatiable thirst for blood. No longer just the spirits of the wicked returned from the grave, vampires were now seen as physical creatures, prowling the night, seeking their next victim to sate their bloodlust. This evolution in the vampire mythos was not just a product of fear. It was also a reflection of societal anxieties about the spread of disease. People sought a tangible foe to blame for the unseen enemy that was decimating populations. And what better scapegoat than the vampire, a creature already associated with death and the supernatural. This shift in portrayal wasn't just about attributing a physical form to the vampire, it was also about giving a face to the faceless dread of disease. By doing so, people could externalize their fears, making them easier to grapple with. With the spread of these stories across Europe, the vampire underwent a transformation, becoming the blood-drinking creature we are more familiar with today. Different cultures have added their unique twists to the vampire legend, shaping it into the one we know today. Starting with Bulgaria, the birthplace of the vampire legend. The word vampire itself is thought to have originated here. The Bulgarian vampire was often envisioned as the spirit of a wicked individual who'd met a violent end, returning from the grave to prey on the living, thus introducing the concept of the undead into the vampire narrative. On to Greece, where the term vrikolakas was used to describe vampires. Greek vampire tales often featured the undead created by an evil spirit taking possession of a lifeless body. This added an extra layer of terror to vampire narratives, reinforcing the theme of malevolent supernatural forces at work. In Romania, we encounter a figure who has become synonymous with the vampire mythos, Vlad Tepes, or Vlad the Impaler. This infamous prince, known for his brutal tactics including impaling his enemies, inspired the creation of the iconic Count Dracula. His cruelty and inhumanity added a chilling, monstrous dimension to the vampire legend. Hungary, meanwhile, enriched vampire lore with tales of cursed beings or those bitten by vampires who could transform into bats or wolves. Hungarian vampires were also said to be able to manipulate the weather, introducing the idea of supernatural powers beyond mere physical transformation. Finally, Serbia contributed its own unique elements. Serbian vampire stories often involved a combination of factors leading to vampirism, such as being buried with a stake through the heart or being exhumed after death. These vampires could fly and enter homes through keyholes, adding an element of inescapability to the myth. From the brutal Vlad the Impaler to the shape-shifting creatures of Hungarian folklore, each culture has added layers to the vampire legend, making it a truly global phenomenon. Today, the vampire legend continues to evolve and captivate audiences worldwide. Modern tales often paint vampires as attractive, seductive figures, yet they never quite shake their eerie association with death and the supernatural. From literature to blockbuster films and pop culture, these nocturnal beings have seeped into our collective consciousness, and their allure shows no signs of waning. Whether they're charming or terrifying, vampires remain a potent symbol of our fears and fascinations, reminding us that there are always mysteries lurking in the shadows.